Holidays.
Yes.
Holidays is a big issue for JWs and ex-JWs, but it is one of our favorite things. So we're going to do a little discussion on how the holiday process has evolved from the time that we left the organization until now.
We're going to talk a bit about what it was like to do our first couple of holiday seasons, why we do the holidays, and yeah, what it's kind of become now that we're a few years out.
My favorite, I do feel like, is Christmas, just because to see the kids like so excited, the grandkids just so, like you see it like just build from like the beginning of December. And we try to do like fun things leading up to Christmas. So we have like Christmas sleepovers and we watch Home Alone and we drink cocoa and we do like gingerbread houses one weekend before Christmas and just like the fun things that help the anticipation build. You've probably seen those like advent calendars where every day you open like a little door and there's, a
Yes.
candy or whatever. So we have one of those. It's kind of big. And the kids come over and um, we take $1 bills and put them in a bunch of the doors. And then there's one door that has like a $5 bill. And then there's one door that has a $20 bill. So each kid is allowed to just pick whatever door and just roll the dice. Um, so that they're just all excited, hoping of course they get the big money door. So just the little things, seeing it through their eyes is more exciting because we didn't get to experience it as kids. And even though it's great now, it's magical to a kid. So that's still my favorite because I get to share it with them.
That's beautiful. I was always a bit annoyed growing up because my non Jehovah's Witness grandparents really got away with murder. There were so many kids, and none of them were they buying Christmas presents for. So, I mean, they just got away with it. It was so uh, it was so ridiculous. And then, of course, they didn't do anything else on birthdays or any other time of year. So those guys just saved some money. And all the other
Oh
kids,
yeah.
it made me a little jelly. It wasn't that I was really bothered by the kids at school too much, but it made me a little jelly because all the other grandkids got birthday and Christmas.
Sure.
And then they went, well, the Jehovah's Witness kids don't need anything, and they just did
They don't even
nothing.
want it.
No,
They
no.
wouldn't take it if I offered.
I remember exactly right. I remember being a kid in family studies back before they called it family worship. And there's the doorbell again. Good job.
Yeah. Let me mute it real quick.
Who is it? Who's there?
Who knows? Sometimes, like, if the wind blows the hedges,
The hedges just reach up and go ping
out
pong.
fr out front.
This is something we should do someday, a compilation of silly things people have said, Jehovah's Witnesses have said at the door. Because I remember we had this part in our, it was local needs, I believe, in our congregation, and it was about not talking about ridiculous things at the door because there's starting to becoming a camera. This was like 2016, 2017, and it was in the neighborhood, the fancier neighborhoods. Some of us peasants hadn't quite gotten to the point where we could have ring doorbells back then, but the
Mhm.
fancier neighborhoods had fancy doorbells or
Sure.
cameras up there,
Cameras.
and you'd catch these Jehovah's Witnesses saying ridiculous things. And now I'm noticing on Reddit and on YouTube that Jehovah's Witnesses are saying stupid stuff at the doors. Like one of them
I've seen
was this woman, this JW woman, older woman, and it said, "Don't leave any flyers. Don't please don't knock. Please be cool." It was a really nice, pleasant little, almost playful sign. And she read it out loud. Don't leave any flyers. And she's doing her memorial invitation, and she's like, well, I'll take the hit if it's yeah, I'll just take the hit. And she puts it in the door and then she leaves. And you're like, why? Why are you like this? Or the walking up to the door and saying, "Oh, I kind of want this house in the new system."
or like, "Oh, this place is a dump."
What was your first holiday you celebrated after you left? And you're like, okay, I mean, was it awkward? Was it like uncomfortable leaning into it a little bit?
It was so weird.
What happened?
So, I got married in January. So, we had like a 4th of July barbecue, but we didn't really like celebrate it. So the first like big holiday was,
Like 11 months
Thanksgiving.
after you got married, or
Yeah,
10, yeah,
so
9
it had
months,
been a
yeah.
while. So Thanksgiving, was very strange because number 1, I was asked to do the cooking. And I've cooked for, like, a big group of people, but never, like, this very traditional, like, Thanksgiving dinner. So I was nervous. I wanted everything, to turn out well, turn out just right. Um, so it was awkward because I didn't have that much time to really reflect on it being a holiday because I was so overwhelmed with, like, the work part. Um, but then, when everybody sat down at the table, I was thinking like, "Oh, I am really thankful." Um, I did feel, grateful, um, to, be part of this new family, and this was, like, our first big, thing together. Um, so, I mean, I guess that was the first one. The first Christmas, which, of course, was just right after, was super awkward. I This is in 2012. So I was still, even though I was remarried, I was, like, sporadically going to meetings. I knew that it wasn't true, but I still, to appease my family, was kinda, like, trying to keep going. So we didn't put up a tree or anything. He was trying to be, respectful of how I felt, and I didn't know, like, should I put up a tree or so, we literally just had a random, high back chair in the living room, and we just piled all the gifts, like, in this chair and around the chair. We did exchange gifts, because of the kids and everything. Um, but it was just very it was like we were celebrating it, but we weren't celebrating it, and, bless my husband for his patience because
Like, can we take a moment for
just give him, like,
Keith
the slow
and
clap because
the
I'm sure he's like,
glory
"This
of
woman
his patience? Okay,
driving
God,
me over
just
the
do it or
edge."
don't. We're doing it.
But he hung in there.
That, and
He
he
was
has
very
grandkids at
patient.
the point,
He
so
does, and so he was like, he said, "If you don't feel comfortable putting up a tree, like, that's fine, but, like, we're going to buy them presents." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." And, of course, now I go so hard for Christmas, and I have invested so much of my money into decorations and just making it, like, so fun and over the top. I feel like we've made up for those first couple of years.
yeah, I remember my first year doing Christmas, I was very similar, like, I was like, "Okay, I live in the same house." I had, I was already being shunned by everyone, so I don't know what I was worried about, but I was
Right.
still like, "I don't wanna do over the top." My girlfriend at the time was like, "Okay, that's fine." She was being real supportive too, and I didn't put any lights on the outside. We put up a little tree, if I
Were
remember
you worried
correctly.
somebody would drive by and see?
Yeah, I was, and then
I was
and
like,
then
"Don't put lights on the house."
you're right. And then smash cut to the next Halloween. I was putting up graves and I had all kinds of I had a my Christmas wreath, they hang in September. I have this big, 5-foot wreath that hangs on the front of my house. And so I wrapped it in black cloth so that, and then I had like a skeleton hanging from it, and declaring the good news of Halloween. And there was just everything. There was a little graveyard set up in my front yard with a little fence made of little bones and stuff. And then right then, two elders went by, drove pulled up, and then walked up and said, "Hey, Jason." And I'm like,
"Hey,
I don't know who
buddy."
these guys are,
Oh,
because they moved
strangers.
me apparently to a different congregation without me knowing. And they're like, "We just thought we'd check in and see if you're still interested in coming back to the trails off." Like, "Nah, I'm good right now." And I didn't care at all. And I was fully into it. But you're right. That
"Don't
first
call me,
year,
I'll call you."
right. Except the opposite. I was lying when I said I'd call you. And it, it was kind of funny then, but I appreciate that first year in 2018. I did a super light version of the holidays. For Halloween, I kind of thought, oh, Halloween is the demon holiday. Okay, I can't do that
Yes.
one. But Christmas was, even though I didn't believe in the demons, I was still like, I don't want to be extra insulting. I want to be,
Right.
there's another Jehovah's Witness family in my little neighborhood. We have a clump of about 120 houses, And there was another family just across the way, and I didn't want to be like in their face about it.
Sure.
And obviously that attitude's changed, but it was yeah, I was just super super low key about it. But then the next year when Halloween came up, and Halloween is far and away my favorite one. I
That was my
love
next
Christmas.
question.
What happened is I kind of stumbled in doing something over the top every year. And so this one year, I believe it was 2019, yeah. Maybe 2020. I just randomly found on Craigslist that there was this funeral home near me, and they had just been bought out by this new company. And the new company went in and cleared everything out, and they had this 1996 Buick Roadmaster hearse sitting in this garage in the back, and it hadn't been moved in like 7 or 8 years. It only had like 50,000 miles on it because it goes from one spot to the other.
Yeah, cemetery to the funeral home.
Exactly. And then so I went in there, and I the guy's like, we want $3,000 for this hearse. And I didn't know if it started or anything. And I love older weird cars, and I'll put up pictures of it. And I offered him $700 for it, and he's like, yeah, sure, just get it out of here, I don't care. So there was no key, nothing. I had to have the key made and everything. So I went and picked up this hearse, and I thought, this will be fun for Halloween. And so I parked it on my driveway and covered it. And then the next year, I pulled it in front of my house. I dressed up in lights, and I thought, this looks pretty good. It was parked in front of my house. I had all my lights. But then I thought, what if it looks like it crashed through my graveyard and into my house? And I piled up some bricks, like it looked like it knocked down some of the bricks on my house. I put up a fogger machine underneath the hood, like there's steam coming out of it. I did it. I leaned into it so much. And then I turned around like a couple months after Halloween and sold it to this goth high school kid. And I made a little bit of money, and I basically paid for all my Halloween decorations with it. So
Nice.
that was my first year that I accidentally went over, just super overboard with my decorations. And then every year it's been oh, you're the Halloween house. And now I feel obligated to go do
You're
something.
that
And
guy.
it's so much fun. I love it.
So that's something that I do want to talk about. Within witness culture, of course, all holidays are bad, but Halloween specifically, extra bad, extra, extra. It's on the far end of the naughty scale. So a lot of people have said, based on how you believe now, like how do you feel about Halloween? So I think it's important to understand when I talk to a lot of other believers, they'll say, "Well, we celebrate, Christmas, we celebrate Easter, but not Halloween because that's pagan." But to me, if you do your research, all holidays are pagan. Easter, Christmas. Now, I think it's important to note that just because Christmas started as a celebration of the sun, and then centuries later, Druid priests added in the tree, um, that obviously has nothing to do with why it's commemorated now. And the same thing with Easter. It has links to Ishtar and like the fertility symbol of the rabbit. Absolutely nothing to do with how modern believers or just modern day people celebrate it now. And that's basically how I feel about Halloween. If you're taking that opportunity to just interact with your community and do something fun for kids and meet the people in your neighborhood, and you're doing trunk or treat, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the origins of the Day of the Dead or anything like that. I think it's just another way that the organization keeps the separation of us and them in totality. And I've said before, they never encourage people, let's say as far as like making friends with your classmates or worldly people. They never say, use your best judgment, use your conscience, make friends selectively. They don't say that. They just say if they're worldly, if it's worldly association, it's bad. It's just all bad. So a lot of people have asked me in the past, well, why don't witnesses celebrate like Mother's Day, Father's Day, things that are just about like honoring your parents, grandparents' day, things that don't really have anything to do with like pagan origins. Why aren't those allowed? And I feel like the organization just paints with this broad stroke brush. They're just all bad. We're not picking and choosing. We're just saying no to all of it. And it just keeps that delineation complete.
It's a ton of fun. We'll put up some pictures of our past Halloweens. I absolutely
Yeah.
love your Halloween. Of your costumes. I think your witch from Hocus
Hocus
Pocus, yeah,
pocus.
Bette
Yeah.
Midler is amazing. If you're looking at this on YouTube, there's an image of it. Um, and what are your other favorite costumes that you
um,
did?
I was Little Red Riding Hood one year, and my husband was the Joker, and that was super fun.
Nice.
Not the Joaquin
You
Phoenix
did you go
or
Jack Nicholson?
Heath Ledger Joker. He was like the
It wasn't like
vintage Joker.
smeared, the
No, no, he was white face, green hair. He wore like a full mask, but then he had on like the full purple suit
Oh, dope.
with like the green tie. It was
That's
it
what's
was
up.
really fun. I think I might have a picture of that somewhere else. I'll have to find it and send it to you because that was really fun. And then one year he was a cowboy, and that was really hilarious
That's
too.
adorable.
He took his hat real seriously, and he had like the old timey gunslinger type like
Did
gun
you look
belt,
like Mike TV
this funny
from
cap.
Willy Wonka?
Willy Wonka, a little bit,
Mm.
yeah. That was the vibe, definitely. Something that my husband asked me when we were dating, and I was still partially clinging to, you know, my old life within the
Partial
organization.
Klingon.
It was partially, yep, half. He was asking about the holidays, and he knew that we didn't celebrate Christmas, but he didn't know that it was no holidays. And he said, "Well, what do you do for like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day?" And I said, "No, it's none. It's no holidays." And he didn't know that. And he said, "Well, I'm I'm confused." He said, "Do you guys celebrate like do you do baby showers?" And I said, "Yeah." And he was thinking, and I said, "I mean, what's the issue?" He said, "Well, what's the point of a baby shower?" And I said, "Well, to celebrate the birth of a child." And he said, "Well, why can you do that, but you can't commemorate that birth the following year or every year after that? Like, why you just get the one? Like, we're going to celebrate you just the one time and then never again." And I had just never thought about it like that. And the more I did think about it, I was like, that is weird. Like, why is it okay the first time and then never again? 4th of July is fun though. Like, I want to blow some stuff up.
Last 4th of July was my first one where I even really bothered with it. Before I didn't do much with it because
Really?
I've never been much of a patriotic sort before that. I was just like,
Hmm.
yeah, I like living in the USA. Okay. And then but then my next door neighbor, this family moved in. We've become really good friends with, and the husband is a veteran. And then come,
Mm.
Memorial Day, he put up his flag, and I'm like, why? I should be supportive. This guy's, a veteran. He served, so I put up my flag, and then the wife and right next to her house. I'm close to the end of the neighborhood, and there's this big welcome to our neighborhood sign with the name of our neighborhood on it, but they always name neighborhoods around like Lakeview, and there's no lake for miles, but we have a similar name neighborhood. And so we went over to the big sign and we decorated it, red, white, and blue, and put lights all around it, and she had about 73 flags she put on it. And then it was fun. That was our first real, it's weird, I never leaned into it, first real 4th of July. So I know about 30% of our audience are not in the US, but that's a real big thing here.
All my brother-in-laws were in Vietnam. My husband, I have said before, he was in law enforcement for 25 years. My father-in-law, he served in the Pacific. So they have a long history of service, and learning more about that. Not just the service of the soldier, but also the sacrifice of the family. Hearing stories from my mother-in-law, she when all her sons, except for my husband, he just missed the draft by just a couple of years. all her sons were serving overseas. And of course, information traveled so much slower back then. So by the time that she would get news that one of her sons had been injured, by the time she would get word, it had been long past. So then she would have to try to follow like a paper trail to find out, where he was. She'd have to get on the phone like with the army, and yeah, it was just super stressful. So like to hear her talk about how, she would spend nights just like praying that they would all make it back alive, make it back intact. Just really helped me see things differently as far as like, patriotism, and that it's more than just the soldier, and that we do have it so good in America, compared to so many other places in the world. And I think I took that for granted as a witness, because you view the life around you as, I mean, we know it's just temporary, but we view it as like, ugh, I'm stuck in the world. Everyone around me is like this dirty sinner, and I don't want to be contaminated by like the world around me. So you view it as not something necessarily good, and that makes you lean heavier into the organization. So I think, on the outside of the organization, just learning that the life that we are able to enjoy is beautiful, and we do have so many freedoms that we shouldn't take for granted. That made the 4th of July experience more than just like a
Hmm.
barbecue for me.
I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, I still do barbecue,
Yeah, sure.
but but I enjoy it more. And like when the kids come over, I mean, yeah, we're doing like sparklers and bottle rockets and all that fun stuff, but like we do make a point to talk about, um what it really means.
Makes sense. I can see that. I can see that. I always shied away from it because I thought, okay, well, I don't really like there's a tribalism that can sometimes divide people, and then you go, okay, well, people from other countries aren't as important as me, and I think certainly there's some people that apply it that way. They go, oh well, I'm this is ours is the best, and everybody else is trash, and I think that's not where you and most people come from. It's a I'm appreciative for what I have here. And I think that's probably a little bit of a leftover from um, really not liking the Jehovah's Witness attitude that, oh, we're better. And I think that obviously patriotism can go that way, but a lot of times it doesn't. It goes a very positive direction. So that's nice.
Mhm. Yeah, in our last episode, I talked about how you don't realize how like tangible the JW arrogance is until you start to try to assimilate into like the normal world, and then you realize like, oh man, it was bad. Like I just was so judgmental about so many
Yeah.
things that I didn't really know anything about. I had no experience with any of the things that I was passing judgment on. So it's a humbling experience. It's exciting because like you do learn a lot, but it's going to knock you down a couple of pegs.
Yes.
It did for
It
me.
and we'll get back to the holidays here in a second, but I thought
Yeah.
something that I forgot to mention. I was actually going to say it on our last interview back and forth episode. And the thing was thinking about was how I when I went from being one of Jehovah's Witnesses to being a non-believer, I for the first little while I was like, everyone who believes is an idiot, you know. And it was even before we started this project, and I I really had this insistence, this JW arrogance left over that everybody needs to agree with me. And now I've gone the opposite direction where I go, oh, wait a minute. If everybody agreed or everyone was forced to agree, that's called like a dictatorship. I don't want to live in North Korea. That would be awful. I don't want to live in the paradise earth that Jehovah's Witnesses claim is so glorious because of their dear leader. I don't want to do that because that is just mind control. I'd much rather live in a world of diverse points of view and diverse beliefs where everybody could get along. But yeah, there's an arrogance that I kept attaching to my new non-belief, and it was really kind of gross. So I think that's been something I've had to try to let go, is that JW arrogance. I'm right. Everybody needs to agree with me.
Yeah. I also think it's been interesting to learn a little bit about holidays that maybe I don't celebrate. I've been reading a lot about like Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Ramadan and things that I don't celebrate, but it's just interesting to learn about different things that impact different cultures. And um, like you said, it's interesting to live in a society where not everyone is the same. We're not operating under this hive mindset or this group thinking, and those different experiences and different cultures are so interesting. How they blend together and just add, flavor, uniqueness.
Side note, is it just me, or all the biblical holidays, the actual biblical ones, like the Festival of Booths? What was that? They did not have good imagination back then. It was boring. You're gonna build a booth and then hang
Well,
out in it. Oh, cool.
well, and it's crazy, like to read about how these huge caravans would go on these massive migrations that took months to get there. And then you set up shop and you have this festival, and then it's this massive migration to get
Months.
home.
Okay, I think that
I'm
might
like,
be an
man.
exaggeration, but yeah. Really?
Well, I mean, you're traveling by
By
camel.
camel, sure, but it's like a couple hundred miles max, right? Well, this is
Well, I mean, I
important.
don't know
I don't know
how
why.
how fast you think you're traveling with like men, women, children, elderly people via camel
I don't know why I've chosen to
through the
die on
Middle
this hill. I don't
East.
know what happened.
Okay, we'll say a couple of weeks. But still, I'm inconvenienced driving across town in my air-conditioned car. Okay, so to me, it seems like this massive, exercise in your dedication, to make that
My
type of,
Nissan's ventilated
you know,
seats aren't working.
journey.
Um,
Exactly, I'm a peasant. In a way, it makes me sad at Christmas time because I do love it so much, and, it is a time that you can kinda, like, let yourself be a kid a
yeah.
little bit. You can get excited about presents and snow and all that stuff. But in a way, it does make me a little sad that I didn't get to experience it as a child. It makes me a little bit like, man, if I was 8 and this same thing was happening, I would be like floating. I would I would be on like another level of just joy and excitement. The way I currently feel times 100.
You know how English is somewhat limited, and there are other languages like Japanese and German who have a word for absolutely everything. The Germans,
Especially emotions and
right. Well,
stuff.
the
Yeah.
Germans have a word, and I'll look it up and put it up on the screen here. It is for nostalgia for a time you never experienced.
Yes, I have read that, and I thought that
Yes.
same thing. I'm like, "Oh, this is what I
Oh,
feel
my childhood with
at
the
the holidays."
Christmases. Oh, wait.
Like an alternate universe, holiday childhood that I didn't get to have.
I
Yeah.
still got pretty happy with the lights and everything in class, and secretly enjoyed it. And I remember at family study, I think I got derailed a little bit earlier, but family study when I was a kid, we were talking about Christmas and why not, why we don't do this. And I was probably 10, maybe 11, I don't know. And I remember at my dad ending the section on Christmas with, okay, so we all understand why we don't celebrate Christmas and we don't like Christmas. And I'm like, I kind of don't get it. I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, I like Christmas, and all my brothers and sisters just gasp. I think if somebody had been, had a monocle in their eye, it would have popped out and was shock and horror. It was, you know, they were just horrified. And my dad, to his credit, was like very patient. Okay, well, let's look at the information again. But then he just showed me the same unsatisfying information. And the next time around, he's like, "Now do you understand?" I'm like, "Yes, sure." Yeah, I wasn't feeling it. And even then I was just like, "This is dumb." Like, so what? It's not really Jesus' birthday. Who cares? And then we were talking with Chaka about this recently. They don't know when they claim that they know when Jesus was born, October. But when you look at their evidence, it floats within 3 to 6 months. So it could have been in December. You don't know. it's just so ridiculous. And then the notion of, well, we don't celebrate Jesus' birthday because Jesus never celebrated his birthday. Well, you don't know. And also, Jesus never had a dog either. I've heard that said. So now we don't have dogs because, well, Jesus never had a dog. Uh, it was ridiculous. It was so silly.
Yeah.
And the excuses they gave, and even at 10 years old or whatever, I was just like, this is not right. This is dumb.
Yeah. The first time I had a birthday party as an adult. Do you remember, like, your first birthday that you, like, really celebrated, like, or someone celebrated for
Yes, my
you, you
friend made
know,
me
threw
a
you a
cake
party or
and put
whatever?
one on it because I turned one. It was sweet.
That's so cute. Yeah, the first time, I got, like, an actual, like, a wrapped birthday present and a cake, like, with candles on it, I was having, like, an out of body experience, and I was, 30 something, and I just remember I kept looking around like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." I thought it was so great and so fun, but it was almost like I almost felt, like, embarrassed at how excited it was or how exciting it was to me. I almost felt like, "Oh, this is embarrassing," because you don't really have many opportunities as a JW growing up that all the attention is on you. I mean, unless you're participating in like a part on one of the conventions or, there's not too many times when all the eyes and all the accolades and all the, praise and love is just dumped on you specifically. So I almost felt like uncomfortable with it, even though it was so sweet. Um, it just took me a while to get used to the idea, like, there's nothing wrong with having one day that's about you. um, and there's so many good people out there that have left the organization, and I feel like don't get that special day because they're still hanging on to old ideas. Um, but if you're doing your best for your family and you're a good person, then have a day for yourself. You deserve it. It doesn't make you vain or a selfish or anything.
And you make a good point that it is hard to kind of embrace that. It might also be hard to embrace if your first couple holidays out or your first birthday out, you don't have anybody yet because you haven't rebuilt
Hmm.
your network. If that's the way you're feeling, that's okay. Don't worry. It definitely gets better and you will get there.
Yes,
So
you will.
if you are feeling a little glum and the holidays are a lot, that was one of the excuses that the JW organization always used. Well, people, harming themselves. I can't use the S word on YouTube, but people doing that around the holidays peaks up. Yes, it does. That's true because a lot of different variables. But if you're fresh out of the organization and you're feeling extra blue and the holidays are coming, don't worry. Friends are coming for you too. You can meet everywhere. There's people who are going to share your interests. And now that some years have gone by, I have such more positive. I just remember back interacting with my family. Love them. Had great family dinners. Love that stuff. I was devastated when it stopped, but it for the first couple of years it was a little slow start, and then your life starts to fill with people, and then things get better. As long you focus on being the kind of friend that people want to spend time with, then it really does grow and get better. So if you're a little gloomy this year and we're talking it up, and it's like, oh yeah, it's okay if it's the first couple of years. You're gonna be all right.
I'm gonna say that's my, advice. If you are newly out of the organization and you haven't, made a ton of friends yet, or, maybe you're going through a more lonely season of life, if it's your birthday coming up or if your birthday is already passed and you didn't celebrate it, I don't care if it's just 1 cupcake and 1 candle and you blow that candle out all by yourself. Do it. Just take a moment for yourself and understand if you've made it out of the organization, you're already over the hardest part. I'm not saying it'll be, all peaches and cream after that, or you won't have difficulties, or you won't have sad days. You will, possibly, but you are already over the biggest hurdle. So, light up that candle, that number 1 candle for your first birthday in freedom, and, uh and sing yourself happy birthday and just enjoy it because you deserve it.
And one of the upsides of doing it by yourself is that you don't have to sit there while other people sing it and you don't know where to look. That is the number one problem
Yeah.
with birthdays is where do you look when they're singing
Mm.
the song to you? It's like, oh God.
Yeah, I just had that recently, and so you kinda just dart person to person, and you look at the cake for a little while and then clap along. Yeah. What do I like, Will Ferrell, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Exactly.
Oh, also, I that just occurred to me. I don't know if anyone has ever noticed out there in viewerland. I am missing a finger on this hand, and somebody mentioned that to me. They're like, "Oh, do you ever show your hands on camera?" A friend of mine that I work with, and I said, no, not really. I mean, I gesture a lot, but a Macarena. Um, but yeah, so if you've ever glimpsed that and you think something looks off, it's because it's the finger that's off. So
What
that's
happened?
all. I was
Like,
in
I don't
an
know.
accident when I was little. When I was about 2, I got into my dad's workshop. If you know anything about 2-year-olds, you got to keep your eyes on them all the time. And my mom thought that I was with my dad, and my dad thought that I was with my mom. And I got out of our house in Oklahoma, and I toddled over to the garage behind our house, which was my dad's workshop. And there was some like materials in there that my dad was working on. He was a machinist, and some of them fell on me, and it pinched, crushed my hand. So I made it out without this
No.
one and without all of that one. But it's been fine. I've never really had any issues. I was so, I was just used to it not
You
being there.
just
So it
gotta
was never really a big
change the
issue.
air quotes up a bit and you're there. You're golden.
I mean, I do. So yeah, if you see me saying like, it's just, yeah.
Me and my brother used to do that around her all the time. We would just switch and go like this. And she's like, shut up. Stupid jerks. Um, well, I think so holidays. Um, I think can be a really fun time and just a pleasant time. And if you do even just go get a little tiny tree, if you're into that, or if you're leaning more toward Hanukkah, do something a little bit fun. It just makes it, and be patient with yourself for the first couple of years, and then it gets lovely. Now I've got little stockings that I hang over the fireplace, and I'm like I said, an atheist. I don't believe that any of that stuff, the Jesus part of it, I just don't care. I think it's fun to bring a tree inside, and I think, okay, wait, I think the most hilariously ridiculous, full of non sequiturs holiday is definitely Easter. Like, I, there's so many stand up comedians have done bits about like trying to explain Easter to a kid. Like, yes, the rabbits lay eggs, and yes, you go find the eggs, and inside is not egg product, it's chocolate, and it's for Jesus because he was resurrected, just like bunnies or something. It's so
That
strange. It's
tracks.
so bizarre. I know there's origins to all of it, but how we got here, it's just like you know, it's just a very strange thing how it just slowly evolved and became this bizarre combination of things.
But yet it's so fun.
Is it? It's such a neutral holiday for me. I just kind of I go over to a friend's house for
It's
Easter
fun.
dinner, and her grandma like makes us all hold hands. She's Catholic and she prays. She's adorable.
Again, we, hide eggs for the kids, and there's usually one egg that has, like, a $20 bill in it, but they don't know, which one. Um, so then it's fun at the end. They're, breaking them all open to see which one has candy and which one has the cash, and it's just silly.
Well, I go favorite is Halloween. As a follow up, a runner up is Christmas. Like I said, I have this little Christmas train that I bought for cheap, and when you put like little bits of fluid in the little chimney, and then it puffs a little smoke out as it goes along around your tree. So much fun.
Fun.
I even put a little Back to
We
the
ha
Future 3 DeLorean on it. It's like so you can push it up to 88 miles an hour. It's good stuff.
we have the, Polar Express train, and, it's got the hobo. If you've seen the Polar Express, it's got the hobo that rides on top of the
Hmm.
train car, and you press a button on the remote, and you'll hear Tom Hanks' voice clip, "All aboard the Polar
Nice.
Express." Yeah, it's
I
cute.
used to have a Star Trek: The Next Generation Christmas train, and then I could not reconcile anything. Like how it was very
Mm,
much like the Easter Bunny. You're like, how do we get anywhere?
sure.
And it's like Patrick Stewart's voice, "Merry Christmas," and there's like a holodeck car, and then it all had like Christmas stuff all around. I was like, what? It was like the Star Wars Christmas
Sure.
special. It just made no sense whatsoever.
I enjoy the He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special. That's my favorite, but
You and He-Man.
personal preference. I do
Yeah,
love him. That was my favorite cartoon from the '80s.
girl straight. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
Oh gosh. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. But the moral of this story is, as you're adjusting to your life in the outside, just take time to enjoy things that are meant designed to bring you joy and bring you close to other people that you care about, friends.
And we realized that we are basically here in America. We have a store called Bath and Body Works, and they release the candles way too soon. They're like, "It's Christmas time." You're like, "It's June, buddy." But we know this episode's a little early, but it's gotten a little bit chilly here, and we're starting to lean into it.
We're in
So
the Burr months.
happy human
It's
holiday!
acceptable. It's acceptable.
We're wearing each other's favorite holidays sweaters. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Grew up in shadows, now I'm free. Dysfunction behind me, hope inside. New family found, safe and sound. Past was dark, but I'm not